Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Her hands know the motion before her mind fully registers it. A small dial, turned a quarter-inch clockwise, then held. She's 19 years old. She's been sitting at this same control panel for 11 months, watching a row of needles twitch across their gauges, adjusting them the way she was trained to, the way hundreds of other young women sitting at identical panels down this same long room are doing right now, in perfect, unthinking rhythm. She doesn't know what's inside the machine in front of her. She's never been told. Nobody who works this floor has. Her supervisor doesn't fully know either. Not really, not the whole picture. Somewhere above all of them, a much smaller number of people understand exactly what this room, multiplied by dozens of identical rooms, is actually accomplishing. Everyone else has a dial, a needle, and a rule. Don't ask. Outside this building, an entire American city goes about its evening. Grocery stores, a movie theater, a church choir rehearsing for Sunday. 75,000 people live here. It's the 5th largest city in Tennessee. It isn't on a single map. And in 11 more months, this 19-year-old girl will turn on a radio, hear 4 words about a city called Hiroshima, and understand, for the first time, along with almost everyone else on Earth, exactly what she spent 2 years of her life building. In the fall of 1942, an Army general named Leslie Groves stood over a map of the eastern United States, looking for a place to hide something the size of a city. The requirements were strange, almost contradictory. It needed abundant water and electricity, the kind of industrial power only a handful of American regions could supply. It needed to sit far enough inland that no enemy bomber could realistically reach it, and it needed to be populated just lightly enough that the government could clear the land without uprooting so many families that word would spread before construction even began. East Tennessee fit almost every requirement at once. The land along the Clinch River, 20 miles west of Knoxville, was the hill country. Narrow valleys that could hide large facilities from aerial view. Farmland that supported maybe 1,000 families total, and a rail line already threading through it. Knoxville itself, with over 100,000 residents, sat close enough to supply labor without sitting close enough to notice exactly what that labor was building. In September 1942, 3 months before President Roosevelt had even formally authorized the Manhattan Project, Groves approved the purchase of nearly 60,000 acres along that river. The families living on that land got letters, not visits. Federal notices, arriving with little warning and less explanation, informing them the government needed their farms. Compensation was offered. Negotiation, in any meaningful sense, wasn't. Fields that had been worked for generations were surveyed, valued, and cleared within weeks. Families given as little as 2 weeks in some cases to gather everything they owned and leave land some had never known any other way of living. They weren't told why. They were told it was for the war effort, and in 1942, for most of them, that was explanation enough. Nobody involved, not the families packing their belongings onto trucks, not the surveyors driving stakes into cleared fields, not even most of the engineers arriving to start at construction, had any real idea what was about to rise on that land. The site had a deliberately meaningless name: Clinton Engineer Works. No mention of atoms, no mention of weapons, just 3 flat, forgettable words, chosen specifically to draw no attention at all. Within months, this quiet stretch of Tennessee hill country would become one of the most consequential pieces of ground in the 20th century, and almost nobody, anywhere, would know it existed. What happened next in raw construction terms alone, is almost hard to believe. Army planners initially budgeted housing for 13,000 residents, engineers, a modest workforce, families in reasonably sized numbers. It was, from the very first estimate, wrong by a factor of nearly 6. Trucks began arriving before the roads were fully built to carry them. Crews graded hillsides into building lots faster than survey crews could finish mapping them. And into that half-finished landscape came a solution almost nobody outside the military had seen at this scale before. Prefabricated housing, shipped in sections, walls, flooring, wiring, plumbing, sometimes furniture, and assembled on site by crews who'd never met the families who would live inside them. The houses came in a handful of standard designs, each assigned a letter instead of a name. A houses, small, 2-bedroom, functional. C houses, slightly larger. D houses with room for a proper dining table. Workers turned over completed homes to new occupants at a rate of 30, sometimes 40 a day. Families arriving by bus or by car, keys handed over on the spot, moving into houses that had been farmland 8 weeks earlier. By 1945, what had been budgeted for 13,000 people held more than 75,000. Schools went up, a hospital, movie theaters, churches, grocery stores, a bowling alley, an entire functioning American town, cafeterias and Little League fields included, built at a pace that outstripped almost every other public works project of its era, all to support a population working toward a purpose that construction crews themselves had never been told. Mud was everywhere in the early years, unpaved roads turning to thick red clay with every rainstorm, boardwalks laid down just to let residents cross the street without sinking to their ankles. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't finished most days. It was, by every account from residents who lived through it, chaotic, improvised, and somehow functional anyway. A city built at the pace of a wartime emergency, because that's exactly what it was. To live in Oak Ridge in 1944 was to live inside a fence, in more ways than one. Every road leading into the town passed through a guarded checkpoint. Every resident carried a badge, checked and rechecked, distinguishing exactly which areas of the sprawling site they were authorized to enter. Visitors needed passes. Even relatives coming to see family who lived and worked inside had to be cleared in advance and escorted at the gate. Signs posted throughout the site delivered the same message in different phrasings, over and over. Loose talk helps our enemy. It was the local version of a slogan the entire country already knew from wartime propaganda. Loose lips sink ships. Except here, the warning wasn't abstract. Neighbors were, quite literally, discouraged from asking each other what they did all day. Outgoing mail was censored. Letters home were read before they left the site. Phrases blacked out if they described too much. Not because most residents actually knew classified information, but because the government wasn't willing to take the risk that any single letter, out of tens of thousands mailed weekly, might contain a detail that mattered. Most people who worked inside the plants understood only their own narrow task. A technician might spend a full shift monitoring a single piece of equipment without ever learning what the equipment, combined with 100 others just like it down the hall, was collectively producing. Compartmentalization wasn't an accident of bureaucracy. It was the entire security strategy. Nobody could leak what they didn't know. And yet, inside those fences, an ordinary American town took shape anyway. There were dances on Saturday nights, a symphony orchestra, assembled from residents who happened to have the training, Little League games on freshly graded fields, church services every Sunday, in buildings that had been standing for less than a year. People fell in love inside the fences. They raised children who knew no other childhood than one behind checkpoints and badge stations, who grew up believing that was simply what American towns were like.